Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stepped off the transport shuttle onto the crystalline platform of Zephyria Station. The artificial gravity hummed beneath her feet as she adjusted her diplomatic uniform and checked her translation device one final time. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment, humanity's first formal diplomatic meeting with the ethereal collective, a species so advanced they could reshape matter with thought alone. The station itself defied human understanding. Walls flowed like liquid mercury while maintaining perfect structural integrity. Gardens of impossible plants grew in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Everything pulsed with a soft silver light that seemed to come from the very air itself. "Ambassador Rodriguez," came a voice behind her. She turned to see Commander Zhang, her military attaché, approaching with obvious concern etched across his weathered features. "The ethereal delegation has sent word. The meeting parameters have changed." Elena's stomach tightened. "Changed how?" Zhang consulted his datapad, frowning. "Instead of the planned formal ceremony with their Council of Minds, you're being requested for a private audience with their queen herself." "Their queen?" Elena had studied every piece of intelligence about ethereal society. They were supposed to be a collective consciousness species with no individual rulers. "Commander, our briefings indicated they don't have monarchical structures." "That's what we thought too." Zhang's expression grew more troubled. But the message was clear. Queen Seraphine of the 7th Resonance wishes to meet with humanity's representative. Alone. Elena felt a chill despite the station's perfect climate control. In her 15 years of diplomatic service, she had negotiated everything from trade disputes to ceasefires between warring colonies. But nothing had prepared her for this. The entire future of human ethereal relations might depend on how she handled this unexpected development. "Do we have any intelligence on this Queen Seraphine?" "Fragments only." Zhang pulled up another screen on his datapad. "She appears to be some kind of anomaly among her people. Where most ethereals exist as shared consciousness, she somehow maintains individual identity while accessing their collective knowledge. Our xenobiologists think she might be what they call a singular, a being who exists between individual and collective states." Elena nodded slowly. "When is this meeting supposed to take place?" "Tonight, at the station's quantum garden. An ambassador." Zhang hesitated. "They've specified that you come without any recording devices, translation aids, or communication equipment. They want what they called pure exchange." The request sent warning signals through Elena's trained diplomatic instincts. Meeting without technological aids was incredibly risky, but refusing could be interpreted as an insult or sign of weakness. The ethereals were known to value courage and authenticity above all else. "Very well," she decided. "Prepare the emergency protocols just in case, but I'll attend as requested." The hours until evening passed quickly as Elena reviewed everything humanity knew about ethereal culture. They were beings of pure energy who had learned to manipulate matter through conscious will. Their society valued harmony, wisdom, and what they called resonance, the ability to understand and connect with other forms of consciousness. Most disturbing was their apparent indifference to individual life. Ethereals could merge and separate their consciousness at will, treating death as merely another form of transformation. This had made previous diplomatic contacts nearly impossible, as they seemed incapable of understanding humanity's attachment to individual existence. As twilight approached on the station's artificial day-night cycle, Elena made her way to the quantum garden. The space defied physics as she understood it. Plants made of crystallized light grew from soil that looked like compressed starlight. Streams of liquid energy flowed between impossible flowers that bloomed in dimensions her eyes couldn't quite process. At the center of the garden stood a figure that took Elena's breath away. Queen Seraphine appeared almost human at first glance, but the illusion dissolved quickly under closer examination. Her skin held the translucent quality of polished alabaster, shot through with veins of silver light that pulsed gently with her heartbeat. Her hair flowed like liquid mercury, constantly shifting between silver and deep space black. Most striking were her eyes. They held depths, like looking into the heart of a nebula, swirling with colors that had no names in human language. She wore no crown or royal regalia. Instead, a simple gown that seemed woven from the fabric of space itself draped her tall, elegant form. When she moved, reality rippled slightly around her like heat waves rising from summer pavement. "Ambassador Elena Rodriguez of Earth," Seraphine spoke, and her voice carried harmonics that resonated in Elena's bones. Somehow, Elena understood her perfectly despite the lack of translation equipment. "I welcome you to our sanctuary." Elena bowed formally, drawing on her diplomatic training. "Your Majesty, I am honored by this audience. I come as a representative of humanity, hoping to build understanding between our peoples." Seraphine tilted her head, studying Elena with those impossible eyes. "Your species fascinates us, Ambassador. In all our travels across the galaxy, we have encountered thousands of sentient races, yet none puzzle us quite like humans." "How so, Your Majesty?" "You cling to individual existence with such fierce determination. Other species either evolve beyond the need for separate identity or they remain trapped in primitive isolation. But humans, you achieve collective accomplishment while maintaining passionate individuality. It should be impossible." Elena felt a spark of pride at the observation. "Perhaps that's exactly what makes us strong, Your Majesty. We find unity through diversity rather than despite it." Seraphine moved closer, and Elena caught a scent like ozone and starlight. "Tell me, Ambassador, what drives a human to leave her home world and venture into the unknown, to speak with beings who could unmake her with a thought?" The question caught Elena off guard with its directness. In diplomatic circles, such personal inquiries were usually approached gradually through layers of formal courtesy. But something in Seraphine's manner suggested that standard protocol wouldn't serve here. "Curiosity," Elena answered honestly, "and hope. Humanity has always been driven by the desire to explore, to learn, to connect with something greater than ourselves. When we learned of the ethereal collective, we saw an opportunity to grow beyond our current limitations. Even knowing the risks? Especially knowing the risks." Elena met those swirling eyes steadily. "Growth requires courage. Staying safe in isolation is just another form of death." Something shifted in Seraphine's expression. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition. "You speak of death as if it has meaning to you." "Everything has meaning to us because our time is limited. We don't have the luxury of eternal existence to waste on indifference." Seraphine was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant, as if consulting some internal source. When she refocused on Elena, her expression had changed completely. "Ambassador, I must tell you something that will reshape your understanding of why you are here. The ethereal collective did not intend to make contact with humanity. Your species was deemed too primitive, too chaotic to be worth our attention." Elena felt her diplomatic composure waver. "Then why am I here?" "Because I argued for you." Seraphine's admission carried weight that seemed to bend space around them. "I am what my people call an aberration, a singular who chose to maintain individual consciousness while accessing collective knowledge. This makes me powerful, but also lonely." The Queen began to walk along one of the energy streams, and Elena fell into step beside her. "For eons, I have existed between states, neither fully individual nor truly collective. I have watched civilizations rise and fall, seen the birth and death of stars, all while maintaining this isolated perspective." "That sounds Elena searched for appropriate words. Profoundly difficult. It is the price of my unique position. But when our scouts reported on human behavior patterns, I saw something that gave me hope. A species that had found a way to be both individual and collective simultaneously. I convinced the council to allow this meeting. They walked in companionable silence for several minutes. Moving through sections of the garden where flowers sang in harmonious frequencies and trees grew in mathematical spirals that somehow conveyed deep emotional truths. Your Majesty, Elena finally ventured, what exactly do you hope to achieve from this contact? Seraphine stopped beside a fountain where liquid light cascaded upward in defiance of gravity. I want to understand how humans maintain hope despite knowing their individual existence will end. How you find meaning in temporary things, how you love knowing that love will eventually be lost to time. Elena considered the questions carefully. Perhaps it's because we know these things are temporary that they become precious to us. A sunset is beautiful partly because it will end. Love means more when we know it's not guaranteed to last forever. But surely that awareness causes suffering. Yes, Elena admitted. But suffering teaches us to value joy. Pain helps us recognize pleasure. Death gives meaning to life. Without darkness, light loses its significance. Seraphine absorbed this, her expression thoughtful. The collective seeks to transcend such limitations. We view suffering as inefficiency to be eliminated. But in eliminating suffering, don't you also eliminate growth, challenge, the satisfaction that comes from overcoming difficulties? Seraphine paused. That is a perspective we had not considered. Elena sensed she had touched on something important. Your Majesty, may I ask what you personally hope to gain from understanding humanity? Seraphine's laugh was like silver bells in a gentle breeze. Perhaps you can teach me how to feel truly alive again, Ambassador. I have existed for millennia, but I wonder if I have truly lived during any of that time. The admission hung in the air between them, profound in its vulnerability. Elena realized that this meeting was as much about Seraphine's personal journey as it was about interspecies diplomacy. Living isn't just about duration, Elena offered gently. It's about intensity, connection, purpose. A human lifetime might be brief compared to yours, but we pack it full of experiences, relationships, and meaning. Show me, Seraphine said suddenly, turning to face Elena with startling directness. I have the ability to share consciousness temporarily without causing harm to less advanced minds. Would you be willing to let me experience human thought patterns directly? Elena hesitated. Such mental contact could be incredibly risky, but it might also represent the breakthrough humanity needed. What would that involve exactly? I would briefly join my consciousness with yours, not to control or invade, but to observe how human awareness functions. You would retain full autonomy while I experience the texture of individual thought. The request was unprecedented in Elena's diplomatic experience, but she recognized the extraordinary nature of this opportunity. If successful, it could establish a foundation for understanding that would benefit both species for generations. If it will help build the connection between our peoples, I consent. Seraphine moved closer until Elena could see her own reflection in those nebula-deep eyes. This may feel unusual, but it should not cause pain. Are you ready? Elena nodded, and Seraphine gently placed her fingertips against Elena's temples. The moment Seraphine's fingers touched Elena's temples, the world exploded into sensations beyond human comprehension. Elena felt her consciousness expand exponentially, suddenly aware of every quantum fluctuation in the station's structure, every thought pulse from the ethereal crew members scattered throughout the facility, every subtle gravitational wave rippling through local space. But instead of being overwhelmed, Elena found herself anchored by something unexpected, Seraphine's profound fascination with the chaos of human thought. Through their shared connection, Elena experienced Seraphine's perspective on human consciousness. Where ethereal minds flowed like smooth rivers of organized thought, human awareness crackled with contradictions, emotional storms, and wild leaps of intuition that defied logical progression. Elena felt Seraphine's amazement at the sheer intensity of it all. "How do you function with such turbulence?" came Seraphine's mental voice, filled with wonder rather than criticism. Elena tried to organize her thoughts to respond clearly, but realized that was exactly the wrong approach. Instead, she let Seraphine experience the beautiful mess of human consciousness directly. Memories of her childhood mixed with diplomatic strategies, scientific knowledge tangled with emotional responses to music, dreams of the future colliding with regrets about the past. Through Seraphine's expanded awareness, Elena saw herself as the Queen saw her, not as a chaotic accident but as a miraculous balance of opposing forces. Human consciousness was like a star, Seraphine realized, burning brilliantly precisely because of the violent fusion of conflicting elements at its core. "You live in controlled chaos," Seraphine observed with growing excitement. "Every moment you exist on the edge of breakdown, yet you use that instability as a source of creativity and growth." Elena let Seraphine feel her response rather than think it. The exhilaration of taking calculated risks, the satisfaction of solving complex problems under pressure, the deep fulfillment that came from connecting with another being despite the impossibility of truly understanding anyone completely. But then Elena felt something she hadn't expected. Through their connection, she began to experience Seraphine's existence, and it was not the serene, wise detachment Elena had imagined. Seraphine's consciousness was vast beyond measure, capable of processing information across dimensional barriers and time streams, but it was also profoundly, achingly lonely. For millennia, she had existed as the only individual consciousness in a species that valued collective unity above all else. She was powerful beyond Elena's comprehension, but that power came at the cost of genuine connection. Elena felt Seraphine's memories, eons of watching civilizations rise and fall while remaining eternally separate, the constant awareness that she could never truly join the collective without losing herself, the growing certainty that she was fundamentally broken by her inability to surrender individual identity. "You're not broken," Elena projected with fierce conviction. "You're evolved." The thought caught Seraphine completely off guard. Elena pressed the concept deeper, letting the Queen experience human philosophical traditions about the value of individual consciousness, the beauty of unique perspectives, the strength that came from choosing connection rather than being compelled to it. "We believe that true unity comes from independent minds choosing to work together," Elena shared. "The collective might achieve harmony, but you achieve something more precious, the decision to connect despite being able to exist alone." Seraphine's response carried emotional depths Elena hadn't known the Queen possessed. "But I have been alone for so long. How do you bear the isolation that comes with individual existence?" Elena let her feel the answer through experience rather than explanation. She shared memories of friendship, the moment in college when her roommate had stayed up all night helping her prepare for an exam, not because she had to, but because she chose to. She showed Seraphine the love she felt for her partner David, waiting for her back on Earth. Imperfect, temporary, but more meaningful because it was freely given. She shared the profound satisfaction she found in her diplomatic work, the knowledge that her individual skills and perspective could bridge gaps between entire civilizations, that her unique humanity could serve a purpose greater than herself. "You choose to be alone sometimes so that when you choose to connect, it means something," Seraphine realized with growing wonder. Exactly. And you do the same thing on a much grander scale. You maintain your individual identity so you can choose how to use your connection to the collective. That's not a flaw. That's the ultimate expression of conscious choice. Through their shared consciousness, Elena felt Seraphine processing this concept with increasing excitement. The Queen had spent eons viewing her isolation as a curse, but Elena's perspective reframed it as a gift, the ability to offer genuine choice and authentic connection to others. "Show me more," Seraphine requested, and Elena felt her own curiosity expanding to match the Queen's hunger for understanding. Elena shared her most cherished human experiences, but filtered through Seraphine's enhanced perception, they took on dimensions she had never appreciated. A simple memory of watching a thunderstorm with her father became a profound meditation on beauty in chaos, power in unpredictability, and the deep human need to witness natural forces greater than themselves. She shared the memory of her first diplomatic success, negotiating peace between two colony worlds that had been locked in a resource dispute. Through Seraphine's consciousness, Elena experienced that achievement as the Queen saw it, an impossibly complex web of individual motivations, cultural differences, and emotional needs somehow woven together into functional cooperation. How do humans create order from such chaos? Seraphine marveled. We don't, Elena realized as she examined the memory through their shared perspective. We create beauty from chaos. Order is too rigid, too limiting. We find patterns that work without eliminating the elements that make life interesting. Seraphine absorbed this insight hungrily, and Elena felt the Queen's consciousness expanding even further as she applied human conceptual frameworks to her own vast knowledge. Ancient, ethereal philosophical problems that had remained unsolved for millennia suddenly offered new possibilities when viewed through the lens of human pragmatic wisdom. But as their connection deepened, Elena began to understand the true scope of what Seraphine was sharing. The Queen wasn't just experiencing Elena's consciousness. She was learning how to integrate human-style individual thinking with her collective awareness. "You're changing yourself," Elena realized with a mixture of awe and concern, "using our connection to reshape how you process existence." "Yes," Seraphine confirmed without hesitation. "For the first time in eons, I feel truly alive. Your species' approach to consciousness offers something I had thought impossible, a way to be fully individual while remaining connected to something greater." Elena felt the implications rippling through their shared awareness. This wasn't just a diplomatic meeting anymore. It was a fundamental transformation that could affect the entire ethereal collective. Will your people accept this change? Seraphine's mental laughter carried complex harmonics of anticipation and determination. They will have to, because what I'm learning from you offers them something they didn't know they were missing, the possibility of choosing unity rather than simply existing within it. As their consciousness sharing continued, Elena began to understand Seraphine's true gift to humanity. The Queen wasn't just learning from human thought patterns. She was preparing to serve as a bridge between human individuality and ethereal collective wisdom. "You want to teach your people how to think like humans?" Elena realized. "Not exactly like humans," Seraphine corrected gently. "But I want to offer them the choice to experience individual awareness while maintaining collective connection. Your species has shown me that consciousness doesn't have to be either individual or collective. It can be both simultaneously." Elena felt the profound implications of this possibility. If Seraphine could successfully integrate human-style thinking with ethereal capabilities, it might create an entirely new form of consciousness that transcended the limitations of both species. The gift isn't just for your people, Elena suddenly understood. You're creating a pathway for human consciousness to expand beyond our current limitations too. Now you begin to see the true purpose of this night, Seraphine confirmed with warm satisfaction. Neither of our species needs to remain limited by their current forms of awareness. Through understanding each other, we can both evolve. Elena felt Seraphine beginning to withdraw from their shared consciousness, but the separation felt gradual and gentle rather than abrupt. As the Queen's mental presence receded, Elena retained echoes of the expanded awareness she had experienced, a sense of possibilities beyond her previous imagination. When her individual consciousness fully returned, Elena found herself sitting on a bench beside the fountain of liquid light, with Seraphine's concerned eyes studying her intently. "How do you feel?" Seraphine asked with genuine worry in her voice. Elena took a moment to assess herself. Her thoughts felt somehow more spacious, as if her mental horizons had been permanently expanded. She could sense patterns and connections that had previously been invisible to her. Different, she admitted honestly, but not damaged. If anything, I feel more myself than I did before. Seraphine smiled with obvious relief. That is the nature of true growth. It enhances rather than replaces what came before. You are still completely human, but now you carry within you an understanding of consciousness that transcends species boundaries. Elena nodded slowly as the full significance of their experience settled into place. What happens now? How do we use what we've learned? Now, Seraphine said with excitement that made the air around them shimmer with possibility, we prepare to offer both our species a gift that neither could have achieved alone. The chance to evolve beyond their current limitations while remaining true to their essential nature. Elena felt a surge of diplomatic instincts as she recognized the magnitude of what they were proposing. This will require incredible care in how we present it. Both humans and ethereals will need time to understand the implications. Agreed, Seraphine nodded. But we are not attempting this transformation alone. Tonight has shown me that the best solutions emerge from the collaboration between different forms of consciousness. Human practicality combined with ethereal wisdom. Individual creativity enhanced by collective knowledge. As they sat together in the impossible garden, Elena began to comprehend the true scope of Seraphine's plan. The Queen intended to use their shared experience as a template for a new form of diplomatic and cultural exchange, one that could fundamentally transform both species without forcing either to abandon what made them unique. You're not just proposing an alliance, Elena realized. You're suggesting a form of conscious evolution guided by mutual understanding. Exactly, Seraphine confirmed. And you, Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, will be remembered as the human who helped make it possible. Elena returned to her quarters on Zephyria Station feeling fundamentally changed. The consciousness sharing with Queen Seraphine had left her with an expanded awareness that made ordinary human perception feel oddly limited. She could sense the emotional resonances of crew members passing in the corridors, feel the quantum fluctuations in the station's structure, and perceive patterns of meaning that had previously been invisible. But more importantly, she carried within her the weight of unprecedented responsibility. What she and Seraphine had discovered that night could reshape the future of both species if she could find a way to present it correctly. Commander Zhang met her at her door, his weathered face creased with concern. Ambassador, you've been gone for 8 hours. We lost all communication with you after you entered the quantum garden. 8 hours? Elena checked her chronometer in surprise. The experience had felt timeless, but she had assumed it lasted only minutes. I need to make an urgent transmission to Earth. Priority Alpha diplomatic channels. Zhang's eyebrows rose. Priority Alpha meant potential species-level implications. What happened out there? Elena paused, searching for words to describe the indescribable. Commander, prepare yourself for a complete paradigm shift in how we understand consciousness itself, and get me connected to Director Harrison immediately. 20 minutes later, Elena found herself facing the holographic projection of Director Harrison in the station's secure communication chamber. The director's silver hair was disheveled, indicating he had been awakened for this emergency transmission. Ambassador Rodriguez, your message mentioned developments that could affect humanity's future. Please explain. Elena took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts carefully. Director, Queen Seraphine of the Ethereal Collective has demonstrated the possibility of consciousness integration without consciousness replacement. She temporarily merged her awareness with mine, and what we discovered challenges everything we thought we knew about the limits of sentient experience. Director Harrison leaned forward intently. Are you saying the Ethereals performed some kind of mind control technique? Not control, collaboration, Elena corrected firmly. Director, human consciousness isn't primitive or limited as we feared when compared to ethereal collective awareness. It's complementary. Our chaotic, individualistic thinking patterns offer capabilities that their collective consciousness cannot achieve alone. Elena spent the next hour explaining the implications of her experience, describing how human-style individual thinking could enhance ethereal collective wisdom, while ethereal expanded awareness could amplify human creativity and problem-solving abilities. What you're describing sounds like science fiction, Ambassador, Harrison said slowly. Are you certain this experience didn't involve some form of mental manipulation? Elena had anticipated this concern. Director, I've never felt more myself than I do right now. The experience enhanced my human perspective rather than replacing it. But more importantly, Queen Seraphine is proposing something that goes far beyond individual transformation. She explained Seraphine's vision of guided conscious evolution, a voluntary process where members of both species could choose to expand their awareness while maintaining their essential nature. The implications for human development are staggering, Elena continued. Imagine retaining all of our creativity, individuality, and emotional depth while also gaining access to expanded sensory perception, enhanced pattern recognition, and the ability to process information across multiple dimensional frameworks. Director Harrison was quiet for a long moment, clearly struggling to process the magnitude of what Elena was proposing. Ambassador, even if this is possible, how do we know the Ethereals have humanity's best interests at heart? This could be an elaborate form of assimilation. Because Seraphine needs us as much as we might benefit from her people's knowledge, Elena explained. The Ethereal Collective has achieved incredible technological advancement, but they've lost something crucial in the process, the ability to make truly independent choices, to experience genuine surprise, to create something beautiful from chaos rather than perfect order. She paused to let that sink in before continuing. Director, Queen Seraphine has been isolated within her own species for millennia because she refused to surrender her individual consciousness. Our connection showed her that individuality and collective awareness don't have to be mutually exclusive. She's not trying to make humans more like ethereals. She's trying to create something entirely new that honors the strengths of both species. Director Harrison rubbed his temples, clearly overwhelmed. What exactly are you requesting, Ambassador? Permission to negotiate a formal cultural exchange program. Small groups from both species working together to develop safe methods for consciousness expansion. We start with volunteers, proceed slowly, and maintain strict safeguards to ensure no one loses their essential identity in the process. The risks are enormous, Elena agreed. But Director, the potential benefits are beyond anything humanity has ever encountered. We could solve energy crises by learning to manipulate matter at the quantum level. We could cure diseases by understanding biological processes from multiple dimensional perspectives. We could explore the galaxy in ways currently limited by our sensory boundaries. She leaned forward, her voice intense with conviction. Most importantly, we could offer something to the galaxy that no other species has achieved: true unity without uniformity, individual creativity enhanced by collective wisdom, the best of both approaches to consciousness. After Elena finished her report, Director Harrison promised to convene an emergency session of the Human Council within 12 hours. Elena had done all she could from her end. Now she needed to return to Queen Seraphine to discuss the ethereal perspective on their proposed collaboration. She found Seraphine in the station's observation deck, standing before a panoramic view of swirling nebulas that painted space in impossible colors. The Queen turned as Elena approached, and her expression immediately brightened with genuine warmth. "Ambassador, I trust your people are as concerned about rapid change as I expected them to be?" Elena smiled. "My director's exact words were, 'This sounds like science fiction. How are your people responding to your report?'" Seraphine's laugh was like musical harmonics dancing through crystal. "The collective is experiencing something unprecedented: disagreement. For the first time in our recorded history, individual ethereals are expressing different opinions about a proposed course of action." "Is that good or bad?" "It is magnificent," Seraphine said with obvious delight. "Our connection has already begun influencing other members of my species. They are developing curiosity about individual perspective, questioning assumptions that have remained unchanged for eons." Elena felt a surge of excitement mixed with apprehension. "How rapidly is this change occurring?" "Faster than I anticipated, but not dangerously so. The collective is approaching this development with the same methodical caution they apply to all significant changes. But, Ambassador, they are approaching it. That alone represents a transformation in thinking that I had thought impossible." Seraphine moved to stand beside Elena at the observation port. "Tell me about your species' concerns. I need to understand human fear responses if we are to proceed successfully." Elena considered carefully before responding. "Humans have a long history of being cautious about anything that might fundamentally change our nature. We've seen too many examples throughout our history where contact with more advanced civilizations led to the destruction or assimilation of less technologically developed cultures. But you also have a history of taking extraordinary risks when the potential benefits justify them," Seraphine observed. "Your entire space exploration program is built on that principle." "True," Elena agreed. "But this is different. We're not just talking about exploring new territories. We're talking about evolving into something that might not be recognizably human anymore." Seraphine nodded thoughtfully. "That is a valid concern, and one we must address carefully. Perhaps we should begin with limited demonstrations rather than permanent changes." "What do you mean?" "Temporary consciousness sharing sessions, like what we experienced last night, but designed to be completely reversible. Allow volunteers from both species to experience expanded awareness for brief periods, then return to their baseline consciousness completely unchanged." Elena felt her diplomatic instincts engaging. That could work. It would allow both species to explore the possibilities without committing to permanent transformation. Exactly. And as trust builds between our peoples, those who choose to pursue deeper integration could do so with full knowledge of what they were choosing. They spent the next several hours developing a detailed proposal for what they termed the Consciousness Bridge Initiative. The plan called for establishing a research facility at a neutral location where volunteers from both species could work together to explore safe methods of temporary awareness expansion. Elena was particularly pleased with the safeguards they built into the proposal. Every consciousness-sharing session would be monitored by both human and ethereal observers. Participants would undergo extensive psychological evaluation before and after each experience. Most importantly, no one would be pressured to participate, and anyone could withdraw from the program at any time. "There's one more element we should address," Elena said as they finalized their proposal. "What happens if this program succeeds beyond our current expectations? What if we discover methods of consciousness integration that fundamentally change what it means to be human or ethereal? Seraphine considered this carefully. Then we will have created something new while preserving the essence of what came before. The goal is not to replace humanity or eliminate the ethereal collective, but to offer both species choices they didn't previously have. Evolution rather than revolution, Elena mused. Precisely. And guided evolution at that, conscious choice about the direction of our development rather than random adaptation to environmental pressures. Elena felt a deep satisfaction at how their collaboration was developing. Your Majesty, I believe we have the framework for something unprecedented in galactic history. Indeed, Seraphine agreed. But Elena, and I hope you don't mind my using your personal name, the success of this initiative will depend largely on individuals like yourself who can bridge the gap between our very different ways of understanding existence. Elena felt the weight of that responsibility, but also a thrilling sense of purpose. I'm honored to serve in this capacity, though I suspect we'll need many more bridge individuals if this program expands as we hope it will. That is another beautiful aspect of your species, Seraphine observed. Humans seem naturally inclined to develop individuals capable of understanding and connecting with vastly different forms of consciousness. It's as if your evolutionary history prepared you specifically for this type of interspecies cooperation. Maybe it did, Elena said thoughtfully. We've always been a species that thrived on diversity, adapted to radically different environments, and found ways to cooperate despite fundamental differences in perspective. 3 days later, Elena stood in the station's main conference chamber, facing representatives from both species as she presented the Consciousness Bridge Initiative. The human delegation had arrived that morning, including Director Harrison, several xenopsychologists, and Dr. Sarah Chen, humanity's foremost expert on consciousness research. The ethereal delegation was more exotic. 3 beings of pure energy who maintained stable forms through sheer will, led by an entity that called itself Resonance of Ancient Wisdom. The proposal before us, Elena began, represents an unprecedented opportunity for voluntary evolution guided by mutual understanding rather than random environmental pressures. She outlined the safeguards, the research protocols, and the potential benefits for both species. When she finished, the chamber fell silent as both delegations processed the implications. Dr. Chen spoke first. Ambassador Rodriguez, the neurological scans we've performed on you since your consciousness-sharing experience show remarkable changes in brain activity patterns. You appear to have developed new neural pathways that shouldn't be possible with current human physiology. Yet I feel more human than ever, Elena responded confidently. The changes enhanced my existing capabilities rather than replacing them with something alien. Resonance of ancient wisdom pulsed with colors that Elena's enhanced perception recognized as deep contemplation. The collective acknowledges the unprecedented nature of this proposal. We have never encountered a species whose consciousness structure offered complementary rather than competing approaches to awareness. Director Harrison leaned forward. What guarantees can you offer that this program won't result in the gradual assimilation of humanity into the ethereal collective? The same guarantee humanity offers us, Seraphine interjected smoothly. Mutual respect for the value of our different approaches to consciousness. The goal is synthesis, not assimilation. Over the next several hours, representatives from both species worked through concerns, established protocols, and gradually built consensus around the initiative. Elena found herself serving as translator not just of language, but of fundamental concepts about consciousness, identity, and the nature of voluntary evolution. By the end of the session, both delegations had agreed to proceed with a limited pilot program. A research station would be established at the edge of both territories, staffed by volunteers from each species who were genuinely excited about exploring new forms of awareness. As the formal session concluded, Seraphine approached Elena privately. "You have achieved something remarkable today, Ambassador. You've helped two radically different species find common ground for unprecedented cooperation." Elena felt a deep sense of accomplishment, but also humility. "This is just the beginning, Your Majesty. The real work starts now." "Indeed it does. But Elena, I want you to understand the magnitude of what you've set in motion. In one night, you've opened a pathway for conscious evolution that could reshape the future of consciousness itself throughout the galaxy." Elena looked out at the stars visible through the station's observation ports, imagining a future where the barriers between different forms of consciousness became bridges instead of walls. "Your Majesty, I think that's exactly what the galaxy has been waiting for. Proof that diversity of thought and unity of purpose can coexist." Seraphine smiled, and her joy made the very air around them shimmer with possibility. "Then let us give the galaxy that proof, Ambassador. Let us show them what becomes possible when different forms of consciousness choose to grow together rather than apart." As Elena prepared to return to Earth to begin recruiting volunteers for humanity's greatest adventure, she carried with her the knowledge that her one night with an alien queen had changed not just her own understanding of consciousness, but potentially the future of intelligence itself throughout the cosmos.